Photosynthesis 8.1, again chapter 8, pages 166 to 169 in your textbook. Now this is 8.1, which means it is an overview. And so we will be looking at the overall process on this one. Photosynthesis converts light energy to chemical energy in the food. And again, this is the overall reactions, the process. So the one form of energy is converted to another form of energy, which can be used by all living organisms. Now, before we start, I would like you to look at this cartoon and tell me the statement at the bottom, is it true or false? Now, I gave you a link, go online, and this is a bonus question. It's a 2-question quiz, and you get 2 points. Now, photosynthesis, when I say, and when we look at the equation, it looks simple, but it is not. It's a very complex set of reactions, and they are highly organized. Not only that, they're so highly organized that it is also very, very efficient. When I talk about organization, we are talking about the chloroplast, the organelle where the photosynthesis takes place. The chloroplast is an organelle, which is a double membraned organelle. And the internal structure of this is very well organized so that the reactions occur in a specific pathways, and they're very, very efficient. So there is compartmentalization. You see compartments. And each compartment, a specific reaction occurs, a specific set of reactions occur, and they pass on to another one. The origin of chloroplast, that is actually discussed in the endosymbiont theory in the cell chapter. If you get a chance, please review. Now, where are the chloroplasts? Chloroplasts are located in any part of an organism which is green in color. So they can be, again, we are talking about plants. So it can be stems, it can be branches, it can be leaves. And but since leaves contain most of these chloroplasts, we are going to consider this as the main site of photosynthesis. Now, if you look at the leaves are flat. That means you have maximum surface area to absorb sunlight. So the shape always goes with the function. The upper part of the leaf is darker green, and this is the lower side of the leaf usually is lighter green. And you can see this when we look at the internal structure. So if you look at the internal structure, the cells which contain chloroplasts are called as the mesophyll cells. Mesophyll cells are the cells which contain chloroplasts. And if you look at the top surface, they are very compact, and they are highly packed. Since there are a lot of chloroplasts and they are compact, the upper portion of the leaf which faces the sun is usually darker green in color. Now, the lower part, the mesophyll cells are loosely arranged, so you have spaces, and this space is mainly for gas exchange. So you want these spaces for the gases to come in and go out. And the exchange takes place through special openings called as the stomata. Stomata are the openings which are very similar to your nose or the nostrils, which allows carbon dioxide and oxygen to freely move in and out. In addition, I would say we need to add even water vapor. So if you look at a single mesophyll cell, that is this contains about 30 to 40 chloroplasts. Each mesophyll cell contains about 30 to 40 chloroplasts. Now that is a big number. And the cell, as you know, they are very, very small. Now each chloroplast is double membraned, and the important structures I want you to look at will be the membranes. So the chloroplast has two outer membranes. It's a double membrane organelle. And you also have highly folded internal membrane called as the thylakoids. The thylakoids. These thylakoids are like flat sacs, and inside the sac is the thylakoid space. These thylakoids, that is this. The thylakoids are stacked together and they form a set. These are called as a granum. Now, between these membranes is your matrix called as the stroma. Again, you can compare this to your mitochondria, which we have discussed in cellular respiration. Those will be the internal folds. The cristae are very similar to the thylakoids, and the stroma is again very similar to what you have in the mitochondria. Now, the overall reaction, if you look, this is a very simplified version of the overall photosynthetic process. The carbon dioxide and the water are the reactants. Light is the energy source. Chlorophyll absorbs that energy, and the product is the glucose. And the water and oxygen are the byproducts. Products usually mean something we utilize, whereas the byproducts are usually eliminated or not used. Now the equation which you see is the full form of the equation. You actually, for making one glucose molecule, you need 6 carbon dioxide, 12 molecules of water. You do get glucose, and 6 oxygen and 6 water. However, when we represent, we always simplify this, and we usually represent net water because water is on the both sides. We make it 6H2O, and that is what this is all about. Now we also can further simplify by dividing all these in this equation by 6, and then you get the equation. So this is a very simplified representation. I'm just showing you because you will be coming across different forms of representation. So when we look at a chemical reaction, we cannot see what is happening inside, but we can always measure the reactants or measure the products. This will tell us this will give us a clue on what is happening. So trying to trace the atoms, it's a very tricky process, but when you are tracing atoms, you want to look at either reactants or products where they are made up of pure elements. For example, carbon dioxide is a compound, so you have carbon and oxygen. However, oxygen here is pure, so this will be easy to trace. So to trace where the origin of oxygen, is it from carbon dioxide or water, they use radioactive oxygen, which is 18, in the reactants. And they found the oxygen is coming from the water and not from carbon dioxide. So the water actually comes, the source of oxygen is the water, not the CO2. Now, the chemical reaction, the photosynthesis occurs in two stages. The first stage is the light, I'm going to draw like that, light dependent reactions. And as you can see, in the light dependent reactions, you use only water, you use the sunlight and the chlorophyll, and you produce oxygen. Okay? Now at this point, the light energy is converted into chemical energy, but it is converted into ATP and NADPH. These are molecules which are energy rich but not very stable. This is not very stable. This is a temporary storage, and then the energy from these molecules are transferred into organic, which is more stable, and it is the food we use. In the light independent reactions, this is this part. Again, where does the light dependent reaction takes place? In the thylakoid. The light independent reaction actually occurs in the stroma, and it's a Kelvin cycle. Here you see the carbon dioxide from the air. This is a gas. From the air is pulled into the chloroplast, into the stroma, into the cycle. This is called as carbon fixation. You are taking a carbon in the form of a gas and putting in to an organic molecule. So this is inorganic. You're taking an inorganic molecule and fixing in the organic molecule. So that's why it's called as this process. This first step is called as carbon fixation. In this process, we use carbon dioxide, and we also produce water molecules. And these ATP and NADH are actually transferred. The energy from the ATP and NADPH are transferred into the glucose molecules. Now this is called as the red ox reactions. That is oxidation and reduction reaction. Oxidation is represented like this, and reduction is represented like this. Now, I like to remove this in terms of, Leo, the lion, says grr, which means losing electrons is, when you lose electrons, electrons don't go on their own, they always go with hydrogen ions. So losing electrons or hydrogen ions is oxidation. Gaining electrons or hydrogen ions is called as the reduction. Whenever you gain electrons have potential energy, so you are adding energy to the system. When you lose electrons, you are losing energy. So if you look at carbon dioxide and compare with the carbohydrates, this has extra hydrogens. You are gaining electrons, which is reduction. So there is more energy here than here. Now if you look at the water, H2O, to oxygen, it's losing electrons. So water is getting oxidized. This is getting reduced and the water is getting oxidized. And it is losing energy when it does. And so this is the redox reactions. Again, we are using electrons to not only convert the sunlight into chemical energy, but also to transfer energy from one molecule to another. Again, electrons, electrons, electrons. So this is an overview, and we will study the 8.2 in the next video.